Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Golden Pathway Zoom seminar, where we make a bridge from the seven major world religions to the teachings of the Ascended Masters. We have covered topics as diverse as relationships, prosperity, psychology, and now this year our theme is victory on the mystical path, climbing the mystical path. And tonight we're going to talk about reclaiming your divinity, awakening and accessing your true superpower with Joy Rulewski. So, do you realize that our supernatural selves may be covered over by our limiting beliefs due to a false identity that we nurture unknowingly? To claim your divinity and our life purpose, it's important to go through personal, psychological, and spiritual awareness and soul evolution. There's a tremendous groaning within the soul to do this, both on an individual and on a planetary level. To break through this ignorance and malaise as we move into the Aquarian Age, join us to learn how to accelerate our consciousness to be able to reclaim our divinity and wield our superpower, which is our Christ self, so that we can help birth this new age. This has never been more compelling, whether we know it or not. Awakening from our spiritual amnesia into our divine reality and destiny must be our central life's work. Review with us this evening the alchemical tools we have been given by the Ascended Masters to help us consider a fresh and liberating understanding of what it means to become one's real identity or real self. And to take us on this journey, we have with us Josephine or Joy Rulewski, who's been a lifelong passionate student of the Ascended Masters. She's devoted her life to the spiritual path. She became a keeper of the flame in 1980 after attending a lecture from Summit University in Manila, Philippines. She migrated from Australia in 1981 and served in various leadership roles in the Sydney Teaching Center, doing outreach, lectures, book studies, and leading decree services. She has a great passion for music. She teaches singing and conducts a community choir. I'd love to come down and sing with you, Joy. She's also an authorized officiant for civil marriages and funerals. Joy wrote and published a book inspired by the teachings of the Ascended Masters called Reclaiming Your Divinity, Accessing Your True Superpower. Welcome, Joy. We're so glad to have you with us here today.
Given the whole lecture already with the introduction, but truly that's really with the gist of my talk today. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, dear brothers and sisters, fellow seekers of truth, keepers of the flame. Today's journey, as we heard, is about reclaiming your divinity, awakening and accessing your true superpower, which, as Patricia said, happens to be the title of the book I recently wrote and published with Amazon. So I picked out just some themes from that book to prepare this lecture for today. And so perhaps an alternative title for this lecture would be Reclaiming Your Divinity, the Pathway to Your Ultimate Joy, Freedom, and Fulfillment. Today, we shall embark on a sacred journey. And by God's grace, it should be a transformative journey. It is an urgent call to not only remember who we are, but how to access and reclaim the essence of our true nature, as it is the only way to true joy, freedom, fulfillment of being, and ultimate victory in the ascension. We shall be exploring the question of identity, and as keepers of the flame and initiates on the sacred path, spiritual path of soul evolution, I believe that that is the answer, that the answer to this quest and question is at the core of our life and what it is about. Like many of you, I have at some point in my life asked these critical questions like, what's life all about? Who am I? And why am I feeling unfulfilled? And where am I going? And how do I get there? And what is my life's purpose? These questions are not mere curiosities. They are the keys to unlocking the highest reason for being, to living authentically. There are questions that define the quality of our lives, the choices we make, and the world we create. For the next few moments, I'll be sharing with you something which you might not like to hear. And this is it, that much of what we believe in about ourselves and the world is a lie. And that is not my opinion. This has been a message echoed by ancient teachers from the time past and to now, a somewhat unwelcome message, and in most cases swept under one's subconscious, as it is too overwhelming to look at and unpack and accept. But somehow in the deep recesses of our soul, we know there's truth in that. I'm talking about the creation of our synthetic self and having to live in a synthetic world and its synthetic beliefs and values. So I've often wondered how Mark and Mother, our beloved Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Mark Prophet, opened this series of Climb the Highest Mountain with a deep dive into the synthetic self. The first chapter of the Path of the Ascension, the whole series of the Climb the Highest Mountain starts with the creation of the synthetic self. Why not start with a real self, I wondered. Was it a warning? Why the urgency to let us know our current state of being? So I'd like to share with you here from the book, Path of the Higher Self, the first chapter, the synthetic self, an allegory. Next slide. Once upon a time, it's an allegory, Mother calls it. Once upon a time, the synthetic image of you was created, and darkness moved upon its face. Yet the Spirit of God good was the vital energy used to create this very shadowed form. Darkness veiled the radiant face of the light within, and your synthetic image came into existence and moved upon the human seed. The counterfeit likeness waxed strong and took dominion over the earth. Its patterns became accepted as natural, and the way to the paradise of true happiness was almost entirely lost and forgotten. With the veiling of the divine radiance in flesh and the coming into prominence of shadowed illusion, an unfortunate event took place. The real became progressively ethereal and took on the quality of the unreal, until at last its wondrous tones seemed to but muffled echoes coming from the corridors of ancient memory, whereas the unreal took on the body and substance, and illusion filled the mind and consciousness of man. I'll just go to the next slide. These sparks of individuality were imprisoned in imperfect matrices, and the atomic structure of man no longer mirrored the splendor of the true, the free, and the brave. Instead, a dense molecular abortion came into being, and although fearfully and wonderfully organized, was in effect but a systematized miasma of matter. The minds and feelings of men are now full of fleeting phantoms, flashes of crimson emotion, the blackness of despair, and the disciplines of the cult of achievement were legions. The patterns of human experience were locked in long chains of events, leading through stages of infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adult years. The pressures of environment continued to mold and shape the personality. Home, school, church, and nations, parents, teachers, and friends all exerted influence upon the plastic nature of the evolving soul. Subtle inner pressures were also at work. At subliminal levels, the individual came into contact with the mental musings of the great and the small, the debased and the exalted. The outreach of the subconscious mind was far greater than man ever knew. And while he wandered in a maze of whirling impressions, the problems of his existence amid the social complexities of life became more and more intricate. So when I first read this text many years ago, my mind didn't really get it. Perhaps it couldn't or wouldn't, other than that it was a kind of a legend, a myth in a time of land far, far away. Rereading it again recently, I was struck by the truth of this description. Now, and unlike how a lot of the science fiction strike us as very relevant and on point, we've long lived immersed in many beliefs that we hold without questioning their truth. We wear the synthetic mask so tightly, we don't even know it's synthetic. We forgot it is not who we are. It's like the goldfish swims in the water, unaware of the water it swims in. If you ever watch the movie The Matrix, you will understand what I mean. In recent years, we have witnessed a profound global spiritual crisis marked by widespread confusion and detachment from truth and natural law. We see this particularly among the younger generations. So the crisis of identity and reality has resulted in a profound, deep disconnect, where the individuals struggle to define who they are. Even such basic concepts as gender, man, are you a man, are you a woman? What is a man, what is a woman? Or are we even human? The breakdown of the family unit, the erosion of life's sacredness at all stages. So at its core, this turmoil reflects the loss of the connection to spirit, to our true selves, the true nature, leaving many unmoored from what is real. And interestingly, how Alzheimer's disease, amnesia, and dementia have risen to such an epidemic level these days. A great proportion of the masses are displaying a spiritual psychosis, or at least behaving as if in mass hypnosis. Man appears to have lost his way, has lost his Christ mind. The allegory expressed this most impressively. Still living in this false identity and false civilization, we missed something very important. This is not an easy, quick process to extricate ourselves from this labyrinth. Otherwise, we would not be here still. Avatars and gurus have, through many centuries, come to help mankind overcome this quandary. By God's grace, present company have listened and at least have turned around towards the light. For us who, by God's grace, picked up the dropped stitches after many embodiments and walked back, we are most blessed and grateful as we are now on the trek upward out of this Maya condition. Keep on keeping on. And praise God. But again, somehow we're still here. There's something more we need to realize and attain. And recognizing, being reminded of this full self is an essential first step. So we don't even know that we're prisoners of something. And even if we know, we don't know how to get out of it. Oh, it's just not as easy as we think. So what comes next? By understanding the complex interplay of the external and spiritual forces, we can, by God's grace, begin to consciously, scientifically, and wisely dismantle the identity and the grip of the synthetic self and reclaim our true divine identity. This is no mean feat. We have been doing this or trying to do this for millions of years. And we will now come to an age where this energy, this new energy is coming up, that somehow or other we must find out this reason. And this process requires the mother flame to unpack the details of the weavings and the sewings of our human and spiritual psychology. Beloved Meru said that the statement to die daily to the finite egoistic self must be followed by another, and that is that we should live daily to the progressive glory of his eternal self and the apprehending of all the reality which that self can and does bring. This is the sun we face that casts no shadows. I believe that the term apprehending here doesn't mean more than merely understanding or knowing. I think it also means the capturing, the becoming of all that reality. And there's the rub. So what's the synthetic self, ways that synthetic self hinders the spiritual growth? The false self, the synthetic self, keep us in a diet of fear and doubt and low self-esteem and limited beliefs in one's own worth. We think somehow it's a virtue to be beating on ourselves. People often seek safety, acceptance by peers and superiors, comfort in the familiar, mediocrity, even at the cost of hiding our authentic self. The synthetic self often convinces us to suppress a true desire to fit in or to avoid rejection. Cultural pressures like the tall poppy syndrome that we call here in Australia, and I'm sure people experience that everywhere else, which is that, you know, you can't excel, you can't stand out. If you do, people cut you down. So, you know, you're not honoring your unique gift, and you keep living your small life unfulfilled. Many abdicate their true self, their true purpose, for the sake of placating others or exigencies. This may be the reason why we have to come back embodiment upon embodiment, because if you remember, it is a requirement for your ascension to fulfill your unique destiny, unique reason for coming into embodiment. So we don't even know that we have this self-talk, because they're all in the subconsciousness, that you are not worthy, not enough, not deserving. So not knowing and not being grounded in your true self, because you think that is how you should think. Discernment is compromised. We don't know what's wrong and what's right. People doubt their own inner voice, leading to inability to trust their own intuition, their real self. Mother did say that desserts must pass. So I'll read to you something that was in the part of the higher self, and which is the dethroning of the synthetic self, and which is a reminder to say that deliverance from the hordes of darkness must come first to the individual before it can come to the planet as a whole. So the responsibility of us coming to our Christ self has more importance than just for ourselves, because each man must win his own freedom by disengaging his consciousness, his thought, and his feelings from the unbalanced and chaotic forces of mass conformism, which are ready at any moment to sweep him into the undercurrent of fear, depression, obsession, mental confusion, and emotional insanity. So when we conquer that within ourselves, we are like a force of energy that will envelop the others as well. So when an individual makes an about face to challenge the synthetic self, or that would be the dweller in the threshold, it seems as though he's confronting the entire world. The entire world is within himself, and what's inside you is pictured out in the entire world. And so he is. For in the synthetic society, the real is no longer seen for what it is, but as the figment of some man's imaginations. And he who aligns with the real finds his enemies to be the world, and his allies to be in the next. So that, I think, speaks for itself. So what is the solution? Beloved Meru says, the only way out is through the door of reality. This is the escape hatch that has been provided so that the body of destructivity created by man's own negativity can be transmuted and overcome. As long as men remain involved in the ego, no matter what religious study they undertake, no matter what devotion they temporarily manifest, no matter what good works they do, no matter what level of striving they attain, they will never be free from the illusion of the self that pursues them as a wanton ghost of struggling identity. So that struggling identity, because they're not rooted in their reality of who we are. So only when they escape the door, the I am door, into the understanding of the eternal being of God being the doer, into the realization that God can act in them to remove the hampering influences, to transmute their darkness, and to translate the consciousness from darkness to light, where they begin to know the freedom of the self to achieve without limit. So here we see the clue that until and unless we own and say, I am God, God is in me, and in that consciousness of God being the doer, God acting in you is the only power that can act, then we cannot escape from this duality. So unless we realize and acknowledge our Christ self and become the real self, we cannot escape this mortal realm. But it's not enough to know about our divine identity. We have to claim and become it by the power of the I am. This requires us to become co-creator with God. We need to act in the area of God's earthly kingdom where we use our talents and strengths to help in the betterment of mankind. It would mean getting out of our comfort zone, our false concepts of ourselves as limited, which is a kind of a subconscious self-pity. Take a risk and act. Take self-responsibility in the co-creation of your real self. It is a partnership. We have to move into the divine destiny in which we have been created. We have to be a hero in our own life. It would mean becoming the Aquarian man and woman where you could be the change you want to see for the bringing in of the golden age, inspiring others to achieve their potential. We have to get on with the business of being the Christ. Mother said that walking the path is like walking in both feet, kicking the synthetic self with the left and walking towards the divine reality with your right. So there should be no condemnation in self, but be self-compassionate as well. Letting go of the synthetic self isn't about judgment or resistance or self-condemnation, although it requires the whole determination, commitment, and enlightenment. And it's not a simple thing to get ourselves unshackled from the negative beliefs and momentums embedded. These are embedded in the cells and atoms of our four lower bodies, in our memories, in our emotions, in our physical bodies. So that have to all to be part of the cleansing and the releasing and the transmutation. And this requires the mighty work of the ages and the spiritual intervention and the sponsorship of the ascended masters. So all I'm saying is that there's an urgency of awakening and reclaiming our divine identity. There is an urgent need to awaken from the illusion. We're experiencing now a rising energy of freedom, expansion of consciousness, enlightenment and awareness. Cosmic cycles are turning. So at the same time, we're witnessing the global crisis where it could be by the very fact that this light is coming up. Astrological cycles are turning, and it's time for the new age to come. And there's the Aquarian Age is either we go with it and be the sponsors of it with Saint Germain, or we have to, go the other way, dismantle and disintegrate. We see the crumbling of traditional structures of beliefs in organizations, cultures, politics. We see that they cannot stand in the wake of truth and reality. So often it takes a crisis to awaken us to something we need to face. So the dark night of the soul is like a catalyst for spiritual awakening. Crisis disrupts the inner structure that we have relied on, forcing us to confront life's uncertainties. How many of us have had or have gone through such crisis? It may have been an unfair entrenchment, a divorce, a betrayal, abandonment, a loss of loved one, a death, a fatal diagnosis, financial tragedy. But the dark night of the soul often requires us to die to the old and temporary, and to temporarily stand in a spiritual void. But it is not a void, because the breakdown creates a space for deeper introspection and a clearer understanding of our souls, our real self. So who is this real self, our Christ self? So let's read again chapter 2 now of the Climb the Highest Mountains, the Path of the Highest Self. So this is who the glorious identity that we are. In the beginning, the real image of you was created, and light gave it birth. The light was the only begotten of the Father, full of grace. The light was the Christ by whom all things were made, the emanation of eternal purpose, the sun radiance of the heart of cosmos. So you think of this is us. This is not This is not just some description of some beautiful person away from me. This is us. This is our real identity. The fires of creation burned brightly on that memorable day when, born out of the flaming consciousness of the Creator, the spirit of man danced for joy, and the morning stars sang together. The theater of the Almighty rung clear. Go forth, sons and daughters of the infinite mind. Go forth and fulfill thy immortal destiny. The creation that God hath made of your real self is that it is the inner lodestone. Sorry, the creation of God hath made is your real self. It is that inner lodestone of goodness and perfection, that archetypal pattern of the infinite that is intended to mold the outer form and consciousness in the divine likeness ordained by God. So it is that blueprint that we need to, and we can, and is meant to manifest in divine, in the outer form. So as above, so below. So that's what we're supposed to be in this matter form in the earth, not the limited, fearful, desperate personality or consciousness that a lot of us have been carrying. And the real self is the permanent atom of your identity, the rock of ages that remains unmoved by the restless tides of life. It is the holy natural man who came forth from God, eternally vibrant and pure as a ray of light from the heart of the sun. Your real self is your conscience, which speaks its own name, excuse me, with a voice of authority, and does thereby honor the name of God. I am. Sorry. Excuse me. Some water. If we ponder on that and really feel, oh my God, that is really who we are, and is the gap from this consciousness of the illimited to travel to that reality that we are, that has taken us millions of years to be able to, or on and off, or sporadically. So the path of the real self is a path of perfection, but is not the perfection of the human, because the human cannot be perfected. It is bound by limitations of time and space and mortal consciousness. The path of perfection is the perfection of the evolving soul and spirit. And the Christ self is the mediator between spirit and matter, and he is our superpower. Our Christ self is our superpower because we are both in spirit and in matter, but still in spirit with an understanding of what it is to be human, just like Jesus was. He was in the world, but not of the world. We understand the travails, the failings of being human, and yet we do not succumb to it unless we allow ourselves to. And so how do we connect to this divinity? So there are powerful tools. Reclaiming our divinity requires, in the lingo of today, a change of mindset, a renewing of our minds by putting on the mind of Christ. Let that mind be in me, which was in Christ Jesus, we say. As the masters have always said, consciousness is the key to creation. Here are some true spiritual tools drawn from both ancient wisdom and modern scientific discoveries, which offer holistic approach to personal transformation. It is something that we have been doing all since we've been, on the spiritual path, but especially since coming to the teachings when we know the path of the presence. So one is the practice of the presence. What does that mean? The masters always say to us, connect to your I am presence, with your mighty I am presence. That is our key to our divinity. So connecting to our I am presence is a core teaching of the path. You can connect to God through our Christ self. It's the presence and self-awareness that reality is only in the now. So when we are doing our decrees and we're doing, oh, my constant loving I am presence, the light of God above me, is always living and having awareness that the only reality is now. Anything that we remember, like our memories, our doubts, our fears, or whatever happened, that's only the past or maybe in the future, but they're not in the reality. So time and space, as we know, is an illusion. It is like a sub reality, if you like, that is just there, like with something on the shelf. So the Christ self, your real self, is in a unique position of being midway between spirit and matter, aware of the Maya, but not caught up in it. So by having meditation and mind awareness in God, we may see the things going around us, because to be in God doesn't mean to turn our backs to the calling of humanity and travail, but to be able to help that, to transmute that, but we have not to be caught up in it. So cultivating awareness by cultivating mindfulness, there's a lot of that in the modern world today, the talk of mindfulness, which is simply really awareness, being aware of ourselves in the present now. So mindfulness involves the cultivating of a state of heightened awareness of the present moment, of the now, of being present, observing thoughts and emotions without judgment, and anchoring ourselves in the reality of God in us. So the attention awareness, the masters highlight the significance of recognizing where our attention is directed consciously, and consciously choosing to focus on what is positive, uplifting, and aligned with our divine purpose. We do this through creative visualization, thought form, sacred geometry, and also the power of the immaculate concept. This is one of my most favorite concepts because it's a science practiced by every angel in heaven. It is the power of the Holy Christ self. It is the ability to acknowledge the ultimate reality of goodness and light while perceiving anything else as an illusion or shadow. It also involves the recognizing of the power of having an open heart and a single-eyed vision, which enables one to see and bring forth the inherent perfection of any creation or situation, even when it appears to be imperfect on the surface. It is achieved by holding an image of the highest version of the creation or situation in mind. The immaculate concept is the spiritual principle found in new thought and certain esoteric Christian teachings. It involves maintaining the perfect vision of or belief about, say, another person, situation, despite contradictory evidence, as we've said. And this approach is akin to using prayer to uphold a positive look on circumstances. It is demonstrated in why healing happens and miracles. The underlying premise is that focusing on the ideal state or inherent goodness of someone or something can contribute to the bringing about of the positive reality. This practice is rooted in a deep faith in spiritual laws, the interplay of the laws of as above, so below. It is our inner conviction and spirit that can shape our external experiences and realities. See, creation happens twice, once in spirit and once in matter. This is suggested too in the principle of creative power of the observer over the observed. It is a principle of quantum physics. So a lot of the new spirituality now that is happening is their understanding of this principle, that consciousness is really what determines how to create what the creation looks like or becomes, because the reality is fluid, energy is fluid. We know this. That's why alchemy happens. That's why transmutation, the flame of transmutation happens. That's why we do the violet flame. So the masters say that this is a very, very important thing. They say that only thinking makes darkness real. For all that is of the darkness is the figment and imagination of the fallen ones. And when you accept it in your life, you, and only you, give it life. And when you withdraw that power from the action of the mind of God and the flame of God, it ceases to exist where you are. Wow, that's powerful. Really, that's powerful. We can really meditate on that and see how how we could actually, we're not, or we're doing that in our lives. So the other ways too of harnessing that power and connecting with God and becoming a Christ self is through the power of vibration, sound, and the spoken word. Because as we said, everything is frequency, everything is vibration, and then we can change vibration. Everything in the universe vibrates, including our thoughts and emotions. So by giving the proper affirmations, by giving the proper sounds and vibrations and mantras and decrees, we know this through the power of the spoken word. We have the science, it's a scientific thing. So that's one very important thing of connecting with our Christ self. And as we already said, and President Company considered, we already know about the violet flame and how that is the most powerful spiritual energy given to us by the ascended masters with the purpose of transmuting negative energies into their original purity. So what a magnificent gift. And that is the gift that's coming more now into not just recognition, but affirmation and confirmation and acceptance actually in the modern scientific field now. So we are embracing the power of the Christ by doing all that, because the Christ is the catalyst for this profound transformation. Without that concept, without that mindset of the Christ that we are both divine, even though we're in matter, we are actually consecrating matter, we're uplifting, we're like with the Holy Grail. We need to vibrate this Holy Grail into that frequency that we can contain the real spirit, the spirit of God. So it's called the crystallization of the God flame. So we are like the crystallization of the God flame, unique. And that's unique expression of your superpower. And it cannot exist without you. So we have entered now the age of Aquarius, the age of Saint Germain, the age of enlightenment and transmutation. So ray of light actually gave us in the Keepers of the Flame lesson, one of them, I think the second one, he says, reminding us that you who would build the foundation of the future of the Aquarian civilization that is to be built on Terra, you must go before mankind as the life wave, preparing the way of dissolving in the action of the chemical ray all substance of death, all records of death, all doubt and fear, and separation from the one source. So that is the foundation of the Aquarian civilization, that we have that power of transmutation through beloved Saint Germain, through the Aquarian Age, through the violet flame, through this consciousness of understanding who we are and what power we do have, what superpower we have of being that mediator, the God-man on earth. And so as we enter the age of Aquarius, we're witnessing more than ever the meeting also of the science and spirituality. So this is actually the logo of the Summit Lighthouse, where science and religion meet. So science and spirituality now seem to have met. The actually also, this is what in the Keeper of Lessons say that science and religion in reality are twins. Isn't that wonderful? Science led to worship the cause behind the effect. Their worship was a science to their mastery, perfect. For science and religion in reality are twins. They give soul force its impetus till man his victory wins. So the transition into the Aquarian Age presents a unique opportunity for spiritual evolution, facilitated by the integration of science and spirituality. This integration allows for a deeper understanding of the mechanisms in which ancient spiritual practices, now supported by information, the meeting of science and spirituality, the sources highlight the convergence of science and spirituality, suggesting that Modern scientific discoveries are validating, amplifying ancient spiritual teachings. So this convergence empowers the individuals to approach spiritual growth with a more informed and holistic perspective, utilizing ancient wisdom and scientific insights to support our journey. So we are not bound by genetics or past conditionings. Through intentional practices of commitment to spiritual growth, as in the lingo of the epigenetics and neuroscience now, they say we can rewire our brains, modify gene expressions, transcend inherent limitations. So this is the way that they express what happens spiritually, but actually that spiritual action is imprinted, is actually translated in our brains, in our minds, in our soul and body, the four lower bodies. So really it's an understanding of the reality of the four lower bodies, because we are wonderfully, and was the thing, and so made that we don't even understand how great we are physically. So because if you remember spirit and matter, above and below, we are a reflection, the reflection of perfection. We are microcosm and macrocosm. So it's really more real in physical form than we have ever thought possible or thought that it was. So our thoughts and beliefs and experiences have tangible impact on our biology and well-being. This highlights the importance of cultivating positive mindset, engaging in practices that elevate our vibration, consciously creating a life that supports evolution. So aside from all is that what's important here, which I mustn't forget to say, is that the consciousness of its Aquarian age involves community, the global upliftment of not just our own salvation or our own progress or our own victory, but the victory of the whole world. So living our destiny involves taking action in the world, expressing our unique gifts, contributing to the collective good. There is a questioning of the old structure of society. So instead of just simply individuality, there is an expression of the regard and the salvation, not only of the world, but the planet and nature, the whole elemental life. So we're standing in that just before we are actually now in the Aquarian age, and we are the Aquarian man and woman. So are you ready to take the role of your magnificent Christ self? So that is the action call. If you haven't done so, now is the time to consciously reclaim your divinity. It will be good every time you think about it to do so, so that you are the Aquarian man and woman of Saint Germain. So the world needs your light. Will you answer the call? And so that is where I'll finish my talk today. There's more to be said, but we'll be here for longer. So if you found value in our talk today and would like to know more about it, and you're very welcome to read my book and reread again The Path of the Higher Self and your lessons of the Keepers of the Flame. It's just really rereading it now. It's just, my God, what a wonderful gift to have. It's all there, science and spirituality. So God bless you, everyone. Thank you very much for your attention. And that's where I end here.
Thank you very much, Joy. It was wonderful. Call
Praise
to
God.
action here, calling us to come up higher. And I think we've got some questions and comments. Linda Crucci Robbins' hand is up.
Thank you, Joy, so much. I have a comment and then also a question. The comment was that what really touched me, and I think we knew this all along, but when you actually talked about how our thinking makes darkness real, that just something about that just really jumped out at me, and I go, oh yeah. It's true, especially with all the negativity and the things that we're reading about in the news lately. It's like, we don't need to concentrate on that. That's not going to help us, be more spiritual. In fact, it kind of covers
Yeah.
down. But my question is, in your book or in the book that you referred to at the beginning, in which I failed to write down which book it was, do I wrote down some of the points that you made about the tools that we need to, reclaim our divinity. But in your book, do you amplify some of these concepts more, talk about them more, etc.?
Very much so, very much so. Into the idea, I explained the chart, the I'm presence and the Christ self, and the really unpack that whole chart of our divine anatomy of our being, and how firstly realizing that, not just realizing in thought, but actually what does it mean in my everyday life. Yes, I do, and also talk about meditation. That I talk about why spoken word is so powerful. I lean on that very much. I didn't do it too much now because we all know about it, and I only have like less than an hour to do that. So yes.
And especially that science and reality are twins. I really would love to read more about how that works. Thank you so much.
Yes, that's in the Keeper of the Flame lesson number 2, I think, in the Neophyte.
Okay,
I was just rereading it. I was incredible. It's just wonderful.
thank
You know,
you.
when you the Keepers of the Flame, it's like, who is this for? This is not for ordinary or for neophytes. This is like real science, real spiritual science. But that's again the whole thing is that as we grow and we expand, we can actually open or more open to understanding more. And we know that, but it's just incredible the truth of that statement. How when the student is ready, the master appears. And the master appears many, many times as we're ready ourselves many times. Yeah.
My husband belongs to a Keeper of the Flame study group, and they're just amazed as they go back and read the lessons that they read when they were neophytes, how much truth and advanced teaching there really is in those lessons.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And when with the Aquarian Age, with things that are going on now in the study of neuroscience, epigenetics, the heart brain connection, all these things, that is a huge movement. It's a huge movement, and they're talking about what we're talking about, but not knowing that this has been told anciently, long time ago. But they have now really put it. They have the scientific backing, and it's not just backing; it's real long time scientific, like making graphs of rewiring of the brain and healing, etc. So it's really wonderful to study how the two, because we seem to miss the science part of our. In the past, we seem to be concentrating on the spiritual thing, and that's why that's why we miss that that part of the brain that is like science, alchemy. We think it's just some kind of fantasy, but actually it is really very real in the cells and atoms of our bodies. People like Braden, and forget how, and then Bruce Lipton, they always talk about how it's actually shown in the thing, in their experiments and their discoveries, that is actually manifesting, very clearly. And that would be really like an inspiration to us when we do our decrees, when holding healing flavors, bright as green, I am good present, soul serene, and through me pour the mercy light, all the decrees we have. And if we know the truth of that, the reality of all of these things, we can make our decrees to become even more powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joy. I think Rosalinda has her hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. I just want to make a comment. Having read Joy's book, I was surprised because, it's like a two-edged sword. It's very simple, and it kind of gives you a pause to reflect on your own life. And I want to bring out the fact that, because she shares like some of the things that she went through when she was younger, I realize how in our culture, the youth, the people that are younger, they don't realize the initiations they're receiving. And so it gave me pause to not only appreciate, you know, the teachings now, but also to realize how important it is that people know that they have an I am presence, even at a younger age, you know, like that age of 18 to 24, when you're deciding what to do with your life and you don't realize how important your decisions are. So it was wonderful because it was a story, and then it unfolds that you have a mighty I am presence, and that is the most important thing to realize, and also that we have a superpower. But I can say I don't often think about it. So it gave me another intensification of that reality. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rosalinda. It's
And
so
I'll just
true.
say that Joy was just absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed that, and I got so many clues out of there. You know, like the others have said, that it's simplicity itself, and that's where it is. So I just wanted to thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you very much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
It's like our own journey, isn't it? We just go through life thinking life is so simple, and it is simple, but there's so much universes behind it that simplicity is like a gift. It's like when you gone through all that complexity, and then you just have this word and say, I am God. It's so simple. And what it really means is like a secret that you have. You enjoy that secret. The first time I heard from somebody when I first came into the teachings, and they said, oh, I think you must be one of the Sheilas of Sanat Kumar that came here. And I felt, what? Am I? Oh my God. And I went through days just smiling to myself, just feeling, oh my goodness, is that? I don't know. Oh, it's like an energy. It's a beam of light.
I remember the first time
Yes.
somebody told me I had a threefold flame. I thought, wow. I was on cloud 9 for the longest time. I don't know why I didn't think I thought I didn't have one. That didn't occur to me. But when somebody said, well, you've got a threefold flame, that was just so powerful in your journey, in my journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Joy. Excuse me. That was so enlightening. I love it. You're on a mission. You know, where you are coming from is so clear. It's just it's almost like a very clear bell that sounds, and people that will read it will really have some part of themselves awakened to even question, you know, what is the synthetic self? What have I been doing that perhaps has been, you know, kudos to you. What a beautiful endeavor you've done. I really thank you, Joy.
God be praised. Thank you. All by God's grace. God in me did it, of course. Praise God. And thank you. And you realizing it, and you resonating with it. It means to say that it's in you. It's like you were like, you know, bells, and then the vibration of like you're those tuning forks. We're looking for the other tuning forks, and we're just bringing our own tuning forks. Everybody has a different tone. And when you go out in life, you'll resonate others that are of that tuning fork vibration. And we have to do it because somebody out there is waiting for your tuning fork. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Carol Ann, Concepcion, and Rosalinda, and Joy. Sounds like I've got a book of yours I need to be reading sooner rather than later. I was wondering, as you were talking, what a couple things struck me. One was consciousness is the key to creation, which I think I know on an intellectual level, but somehow I don't think I know it on an experiential level. And then I loved when you said, focus on the ideal state to trigger a positive reality. Isn't that just holding the immaculate concept for the world and whatever you see happening in the world? And I thought, wow, what a great way to think about that instead of getting caught up in the muck and the mire, the news and all that other stuff. And I'm really curious about the relationship between awareness and mindfulness. Is mindfulness kind of like a expansion of awareness or vice versa, or are they the same?
Very good question. I think they're very close. If you're aware, first of all, then it means that you have like a self-conscious, transcended platform or perspective that you can look at what's happening to you. You're not just in your human self, but you've gone to a higher state and being aware of what's going on. So awareness can expand into a self-awareness and a God awareness, and mindfulness is also very similar in that as you go, this is my take on it. As you go through life, you're just being mindful of. You can be mindful of whatever is happening to you, but you might not be very aware really of what's going on. So mindfulness and awareness, although they're very similar, they're kind of entangled or connected. One might be deeper than the other. So awareness is the state, and mindfulness is like another version of that. I don't know whether I've answered your question, Patricia. I'm sure you have.
You certainly got me
You
thinking
have your
about
own.
that. Yeah. Yes.
Be mindful of something, not necessarily awareness. I think is the kind of could be deeper. Being aware, being mindful.
Well,
Anybody would like to answer that?
Rosalinda?
Yes, Rosalinda, I think who raised her hand.
Yes. Well, I think the awareness part is, you know, what's going on around you, but sometimes you might not know why something is happening to you. So, you know, there could be two different things, being mindful. You could be mindful, but not aware of why it's happening. So that's where it would diverge, but there are points where they would converge. But what I really wanted to say was that the positive mindset influences both states. And that's what I see Saint Germain is really bringing to us, especially with all the revelations about what he went through as Francis Bacon. He knew how to keep a positive mind. It's a wonder to me. This is every day this year I've really thought about this. And so he is a really good ally for us to ask, you know, him to help us with the positive mind. And I think that awareness also has to do with a clear, calm mind. So it's related to common sense too, so that you're paying attention, aware of what needs to be done in that second. So it's a big subject. It's really potent. And I love to ask Saint Germain to help me have a positive mindset.
To me, it's the yin and yang of the same things. The two aspects of the same thing.
I think also sometimes you can be aware of something, but that can pass. For example, you can see something, then it passes from your consciousness. But to be mindful is to hold that within your consciousness. So you can look at it from different angles, you can work with it, you can be reminded of it during the day many times if it's something new that's important to you. So being aware of it brings it from your subconscious into your conscious mind, so you have awareness. Now, what are you going to do with that awareness? Well, being mindful as a vowel rather than a noun, rather than a noun, as a vowel, you're going to do something about that awareness, and what you do with it is you practice mindfulness. Where to put it, how to do it, where to work with it.
Thank you. And thank you,
You're welcome.
everyone. And Joy, I really, really, really thank you. This has been wonderful. And I am going to read your book before I talk to you again in a month, I think. I'm going to make that part of my Christmas celebration. And I am really grateful that you were with us today. I told Joy when I asked her if she would do this, that I was looking for an uplifting, joyful speaker for our December presentation as we prepare ourselves for Christmas and enter the fourth week of Advent. And you have certainly brought that forth today. Thank you very, very much. Yeah.
Praise
Thank you,
God.
Joy.
Glory to God.
Thank you
very much, everybody. Always
You're
victory.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Always victory. And we'll see you all in
Always victory.
January on the 19th. a
Thank you very
surprise
much.
presentation.
Thank you,
Happy
Joy.
Christmas.